the Magical Mystery School, and thank you so much for coming back. Today we're going to do Tarot, Symbols of the Tarot, Class 17, and we're going to be looking at the Tower card, Key 16. And please remember to like and subscribe. So anyway, last time on our Fool's Journey, we talked about the Devil card. Now, I'm not sure which one of these is scarier, to be quite honest. But remember with this Devil card, remember how when we looked closely at the chains around the necks of these characters, and they're us too, remember that too, they're loose enough, open enough that we could have just lifted those off over our head. But we do need to get pretty uncomfortable sometimes before we have the energy, the oomph to make those kinds of changes. And here's where the Tower comes in. This is definitely a little difficulty there that's making us want to make some changes. Because also remember with this Devil card, the devil is seducing you. The devil is telling you how wonderful you are and how special you are, and makes you feel loved and all that kind of stuff, and just whispering in your ear, it's okay, you can just do it one time. You can say a little lie here, skim a little there. It's okay, nobody's going to know. And then what's developing is there's actually a loving relationship, and it's kind of a one-way street, though. You're falling in love with this seduction that the devil's talking to you in, and trying to make you feel like you're the only one, the special one out there. But what's happening, and I'm sure this is for everyone who's viewing this video, I mean, you're into higher wanting to go to higher consciousness. So if this kind of thing starts to happen to you, you're going to start having this dark night of the soul. You're going to start wanking, it's going to be hard to go to sleep at night, or you're going to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and have these flashes of insight, or feeling guilty or uncomfortable, that kind of thing. Because remember, when the storm comes, you can see the lightning and hear the thunder kind of off in the distance. And then the closer and closer it gets, the louder it gets, and that lightning becomes longer and longer. And if you are outside in the dark, when that lightning flashes, you can see everything. Everything is exposed. And that's what's happening on that dark night of the soul. You are being exposed. And eventually, though, kapow, you're going to get the big one, right? That's really going to knock you off your feet, basically. And this is when that tower really starts crashing down. And remember, this tower can be the walls of the illusion that the devil has set up for you. The devil has also been telling you, nobody really likes you. People aren't going to help you. Nobody's really interested in you, just you. So these walls eventually become a prison, like these chains are. But then they've got to come falling down. Now, this bolt of enlightenment is also knocking off the crown off the top of our head. And that's representing our egotism and just our wrong thinking, believing these lies from the devil. And as that foundation, notice the foundation is really kind of weak also. And as it comes crumbling down, we can kind of be pretty devastated by this. And notice how the people are falling head first. So again, they're falling right on their head, on their thinking apparatus. So they're having to think about changing their minds here. And it is also getting this crown knocked off is not only just painful, but it's also humiliating and embarrassing. And remember, humanitarianism, being a human, the word humus is Latin for earth, that we are part of the earth here. And we have to get back to our humanity. So the old self, the negative patterns, the negative habits are really starting to die and be gone. And remember with the hermit that we looked at before, those that lightning ray can be coming from the lantern, from his light, because he's standing up there, he's trying to show us the way. And this is sad to say, we all got to go through our tower moments. This is part of the way. And when we get done with this, we are left with just our bare essence. And we have to ask ourselves, who am I? How do I go on? What's my next step? So we'll be looking at that in Key 17 in the next class. But right now, I'm going to put you on pause and I'm going to pull the camera down. We'll look at the card in more detail. Okay, so here we go. And I think if I don't put my hands so much under here, the focus will stay good. So we'll see. We'll keep working with it. Okay, so here's our Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and here's our BOTA Tower card. And first off, the Hebrew letter for Key 16 is Pei, which means mouth, so the power to speak. And they kind of say, you know, there's a little tooth hanging down here out of this is like a sideways look at an open mouth. So that's one way to remember that. And 1 + 6 = 7. So we can kind of think of the Chariot card here. And one thing I always like to point out about Mars energy, oh, and this key also represents Mars energy. And it kind of gets a bad rap for being so aggressive and warrior-like. But also remember, the Chariot helps us remember this. Now, the Chariot represents boundaries, you know, fencing, you know, protecting the city, that type of thing. Our Mars energy also protects us, as well as being assertive and aggressive and that kind of thing. So we are, you know, we see these cards, they have a black background, so that's darkness, the unknown. Mars in this key also represent the direction north. Mars rules Aries, which is our Emperor card, right? And it's the ancient ruler for Scorpio. And this is also red. This would also be red. So this another pretty scary card. Those are probably the three scariest: Death, the Devil, and the Tower. And then back to our good old Devil here. Remember, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So that kind of wraps up those exaltations and rulerships. Mars also is rules reproduction. It's our muscle tone in our body. And of course the color is red for Mars. And the note is C natural. See that one? I got to stay kind of away from that camera and I think I'll be all right. So anyway, so first off, let's talk about this lightning bolt that's coming in here. Now again, it's very masculine. Here's our Mars glyph, if you remember this from astrology lessons. So especially in the BOTA deck, we can definitely see that Mars symbol there with that, with the solar energy coming down and hitting the tower. And remember also, this could also be the light rays coming from the Hermit. Now, and it's also representing the ideas as above, so below, right? Or that, you know, that divine cosmic energy coming in from above. So this also makes us think of the magician. And the magician, he does have that scepter in his hand. So anytime you see scepters, rods, wands, any kind of thing like that in the, you know, the Emperor has one, the Chariot has one, the Fool has that rod over his shoulder. That's always bringing energy down from that universal consciousness. Now, that's one thing in my study of tarot, maybe you've heard the scripture, spare the rod, spoil the child, which is kind of historically been a good excuse for for a good reason to beat your child. Not something I would approve of. Anyway, but perhaps the rod actually meant a tool for enlightenment. I mean, this could also, in a mundane way, just be simple education. You know, if you don't educate your child, if you don't give them tools to find enlightenment, they are spoiled. So you can kind of think about that and see if how that jives in your thinking. Now, this force from above here is also the energy that turns the wheel. And as I said, is the light coming from the hermit's lantern. Now, when this comes in and busts up this crown and busts up this tower in general, remember it is breaking down existing forms in negative thinking and old ways of thinking. Now let's look at these two figures here that are they're the same man and woman from the Devil card and from the Lover's card. And they're falling head first, so they're getting that sudden realization from spiritual consciousness to let go of the old ways. But there is something interesting happening here between these two figures. Now, this one is obviously, you know, we can see the magician with his robe here. And if you remember, the Hierophant had a blue garment underneath his red robe and then a white garment under that. So we can kind of think of those that repetition again in the male figure here. And then of course the female figure is wearing a blue dress, which makes us, whoops, think of the High Priestess. Woo! The cards are sliding. Okay, so, but notice she's got these little red shoes on, and he does have the blue undergarment. And this one, she still has the little red shoes, but he's got these blue leggings on. So what that's telling us is that self-consciousness and subconsciousness are starting to recognize each other, are starting to see that they both exist, that each other exists, instead of being totally blind that there is a subconsciousness, or that we're just dealing from those subconscious, those old patterns rolling over and over and over in our brain. So we are starting to become aware of that in this card. Now, the fact that they are clothed as compared to, we've seen some nudity in previous cards, that is also telling us, though, that there's still a concealment, that there is still a little bit of we're kind of, the subconscious is kind of a little unknown to the self-consciousness, and backwards and forwards there. Okay. But at least they are starting to become aware of one another, which is a good thing. Now, this crown being knocked off, that is the crown of false knowledge, of those subconscious programs. Oops. Come on. There. Okay, that can sometimes come to dominate our personalities, and that would be the tower there. And so when you hear other people making excuses, or yourself making excuses, it's always easier to see it in other people than ourselves. But just saying things like, I just had to do it. I couldn't help it. I had to express my feelings. Well, sometimes, that's okay, but you don't need to express your feelings all over me. But anyway, sometimes, when you start hearing those excuses, that's that crown talking. Shoot. Okay, I'll get it here. Okay. So what we can do is just really start observing ourselves and recognizing these patterns so that we can, when we fall on our head, start to break those patterns and reach for higher consciousness, reach for universal thought and that kind of thing. Now, another idea of the crown is the materialism. And oh, and I should also mention sometimes this is considered the Tower of Babylon. And that was another thing in the Bible that I've heard. I see different interpretations, but that basically the people of Babylon started thinking that they were just as good as God and that kind of stuff. But my understanding is the reason they built the Tower of Babylon was they were trying to reach heaven, get as high as they could. But that materialism had become so out of hand that God had to come down and smite them, I guess. I don't know. I'm not I'm not so much into a smiting angry God. That kind of is devil stuff to me. But anyway, um, what this is telling us, though, and we're all, like I said, we all go through this tower, is that stuff, matter, sometimes can be more important to us than just living life. Now, and I'm certainly not talking about people who are, in survival mode. That's a whole different story there. So, this bolt of lightning from the cosmos is knocking down the false idea of materialism. And that's also repeated in the golden calf, the story of the golden calf, too, of course. Now, the other thing this crown can represent is the idea of taking things personally. And because sometimes when we start realizing that we've been making mistakes in life and that we've been, it's like we've been angry, road rage, or that we've just been selfish, or, something like that in our personality. Sometimes it's kind of embarrassing, and we have to kind of step back and take that humility. And also, this can also represent the idea that sometimes people think they're a little bit smarter than the cosmos, which kind of always blows me away whenever I hear anybody talking like they know the mind of God. It's like, if you knew the mind of God, I think your head would explode. But anyway, in BOTA, we call it the primal will to good, so that sometimes we can't always see that goodness in life, because it is a difficult lesson sometimes. Now, admittedly, I'm a little bit on the unicorn and rainbow side of life, but that's the choice I have made. Anyway, some other things to see in these cards. In the BOTA card, there's 22 courses of brick, and those course refer to the 22 keys. And both are kind of this whitish gray, again, to reinforce that this is happening at night, sort of in the moonlight. And there are 22 yods in both keys, representing 12. And, that's the flame alphabet of the Hebrew language. And there's 12 on this side that represent the 12 signs of the zodiac, and 10 on this side. And this is actually the shape that the tree of life is in, with the spheres on the tree of life. Okay, so remember, when you're feeling this dark night of the soul coming on, be prepared for those flashes of insight. When you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and can't go back to sleep, write down what you're thinking, because you may forget it. And I can't tell you how many times I've kicked myself that I've forgotten some wonderful revelation that I've had. And be prepared for those old superficial beliefs to be revealed for what they are, and let them crumble. Let them fall away. I know it's upsetting. I know it can be very embarrassing. But just remember, don't take it personally. Every single person has gone through the tower in their life. So you're not alone in what you're going through, and always, always, Spirit is always with you. So anyway, on that note, and again, you're never alone. Maybe that's a little creepy, but no. But anyway, just remember, from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere. Okay, everybody, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.